Welcome to another episode of the Free Thinkers Podcast, where the show believes in free speech, original thought, and the desire for truth. I am Meme Joe Green here on a motivational Monday with my cohort, Rusty Putpark.
I
Rusty,
am
how are
doing
you?
great. I am in the great state of Georgia again, have a lot of rain up here, which has allowed me to get a lot of inside work done, and I am not upset about that at all. How are you today?
Doing good. It's Motivational Monday, and hopefully everyone has self-motivated themselves today and gotten the best out of today that they could get. I know Mondays are notorious for being maybe not motivational, but it's good to try to motivate ourselves, and that's why we call this Motivational Monday, because we all need a little bit of motivation on Mondays for sure.
Without a doubt, I think a lot of when you look at statistics, the most heart attacks happen on Mondays, and a lot of really bad things happen on Mondays. And what it is because everybody goes back to the grind or to something they don't want to go back to. And that's what we talked about back with the positive dog. Change it from I have to I get to. I think that that's a really good aspect to look at it from. A lot of things you don't want to do, but I think we certainly have to understand that a lot of things in life are blessings, even if we don't really see it right now. But yeah, it is Monday, and man, it was kind of a crazy Monday today, but we're gonna try to come to you and keep your spirits up, because we are in a what is a book, popular book, Up Thoughts for Down Times. So we're certainly in some interesting times.
Yeah, and life is tough. I mean, if anybody has an expectation that life is going to be easy and comfortable and just nice, when that expectation meets reality, that's where we really kind of get upset in life, and we start thinking, you know life is happening to us, not for us. And that's, you know unmet expectations is basically why we have so much discontent in life. But if we kind of expect life to be crazy and tough and difficult, now we can just kind of reach inside of ourselves and go, okay, how are we going to attack the day? How are we going to become the person that we need to be internally, so that we can weather the storms that come, that are inevitable, that are definitely going to come. And then we kind of have a little bit of power ourselves. We're using the strength of the Holy Spirit to get us through as well. Definitely relying on that power, not just on our own strength. But it's important to be able to meet adversity head on. I kind of have a little story about that. I think we were talking about this earlier. It was a story about a daughter that was complaining to her father that her life was just miserable. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know how she was going to make it. Whatever she was trying, she was struggling with all the time. And it just seemed like every time one problem was solved, another just came about right after that. Well, her father was a chef, and he took her into the kitchen, and he had three pots there. And he put water in all the pots. He just filled them up with water, and put them on top of the stove, and lit a big hot fire underneath all three of them. So once the three pots began to boil, he placed potatoes in one of the pots. He put eggs in the second pot, and he put ground coffee beans in the third pot. He let them sit there, and they just boiled and boiled and boiled without saying a word to his daughter. The daughter moaned and patiently waited. She was just wondering what the heck is going on. Then, after about 20 minutes, he turned off the burners. He took the potatoes out of the pot and placed them in a bowl. And he took the boiled eggs and he placed them in a bowl. Then he ladled the coffee out and placed it in a cup. And he turned to her. He said, "So, what do you see?" "Potatoes, eggs, and coffee." I mean, that's what she saw. That's all she saw was just potatoes, eggs, and coffee. He said, "Look closer and touch the potatoes." So she went over there. She touched the potatoes, and she said, "Oh, they're soft." He asked her to take an egg and break it. After she pulled the shell off, she observed that the hard-boiled egg was actually hard. So then he asked her to sip the coffee, and it was rich, tasted really good, had a good aroma, and it brought a smile to her face. The father said, "Well, what do you think that means?" And she didn't quite know. So then he explained it to her, that the potatoes, eggs, and the coffee beans, they each faced the same adversity, the boiling water. However, each one reacted differently. The potato went in strong, hard, and unrelenting, but in boiling water, it came out soft and weak. The egg was fragile, with thin outer shell protecting its liquid interior until it was put in the boiling water, and inside the egg became hard. However, the ground coffee beans were unique. After they were exposed to the boiling water, they changed the water and created something new. He asked her, said, "So what are you? When life and adversity knocks on your door, how do you respond? Are you a potato? Are you an egg? Are you a coffee bean?" I would just suggest that all of us be more like the coffee bean and let adversity strengthen us and make us into something good and beautiful and stronger and more pleasing to the world. So that was the story that we read
Yeah,
earlier today.
that's awesome. I actually I saw you sent that note, and my good friend John Gordon just released a book called The Coffee Bean with that exact thing in there. And so
Oh, nice.
I think that's the motivation of that story. You're exactly right. That some circumstances will turn you soft, other circumstances make you hard, and the other times you get to change your environment, everything around. I know one of our good, well, the motivational speaker that I loved growing up, and we saw him out in LA when we went out there together, was Les Brown. And he always had the saying that when life comes at you, you can either be the thermometer or the thermostat. One, you can react to your environment. You can, whatever your environment is, you're going to go up and down based on that, or you can be the thermostat and you can set the temperature, and you can change it to whether it's hot or whether it's cold. And that's always something that I've taken definitely to heart. Today I had a client that was kind of a an interesting dilemma happened today, and it was something that was, I mean, you have to handle these situations that come at you with, empathy. You have to, love, serve, and care for your clients, but you also have to, speak in truth, and sometimes that is easier said than done. So this one client called, and he was, wondering kind of what happened in the past, and it was a situation where he, dropped the ball, and he was telling me he didn't want what I was doing anymore and that kind of thing. And so, I kind of had to lay it out in truth, but in love, that, hey, listen, I've been waiting on you on this. This is what I did, this, that, and the other. And of course, the tide turned, but I didn't let it get me down. I mean, I didn't hear back. They sent a text, and I didn't hear back from him for an hour or two. And instead of sitting there and fretting for an hour or two, wondering what's going to go on, I just, hey, there's life's full of opportunity, and we're, happy to be in this position. We're blessed to be in this position. And, I knew it was going to work out, but I know a lot of times, sometimes when, you know, stress comes at you, you can handle it one or two ways. And I knew that between the time that initial text came in till I actually talked to him, those 2 hours, that could have, had, topsy turvy, my day, but I didn't let it. I chose today to be the coffee bean. I chose today to be the thermostat to set the temperature, and everything's great. And so, he's very appreciative for what I did. Didn't realize, the as much was done, and that, the ball was in his court. And it's, yeah, I mean, I definitely think, most of the time in life, it is great to be able to, to set the temperature or to change your environment, and, have that aroma, have just the discipline to do things the right way. Sometimes it's harder to do that. Sometimes we want to call and say, give them peace of our mind, but that ultimately doesn't create lasting and long-term relationships. That's not the greatest way to build a business, or to build, a lifestyle of care. And so, my business, I've built it based on, word of mouth and developing great relationships. And that goes back to exactly what you said. I mean, you have to change your environment and be a good aroma, and not only good times, when times are tough.
Yeah, and whenever we're getting really stressed or we're starting to feel that stress and that anxiety all the time in our lives, oftentimes we're not getting very good sleep either. So I'm not about to promote my pillow, by the way, or Sleep Number
With your
bed.
special
No,
code,
no
you'll
promotions
get
here. But
80%
honestly,
off.
that's right. That's right. That's right. Promote White Hodge twins, according to somebody that made a
Yeah.
comment on
Yeah.
our page there. So that was funny. Anyway, yeah, we're usually just not getting a whole lot of sleep. We're getting too much thrown at us at once. Our mind is trying to process everything, and it just gets overwhelming. Then it always seems like things just stack up on you, like one thing after another happens. So you'll have a bad business deal go down, and then next thing you know, then your truck breaks down. Next thing you know, you have some home repair that you weren't expecting, or something like that happens, and it just seems like they just compound, and it just becomes so overwhelming. And then you're trying to sit there and you're trying to dive deep on the inside and try to figure out how to uh, attack that adversity head on. And sometimes you just don't feel like it. When I hear stories about like the Navy SEALs, they get out there in that freezing cold water, and it's just they're just exhausted. There's no sleep. They're just having to do exercise after exercise, just almost impossible tasks. So many of those guys quit, and I heard this one Navy SEAL guy go, "You just," he goes, "just don't quit before the sun comes up." So you're laying there in that freezing cold water. It's pitch black dark. You're getting yelled at. It just seems like it's every second is an eternity. And he said, "Just don't quit until the sun comes up, because when the sun comes up, then maybe you get to change out into some dry socks. You get a little something to eat, a little something to drink, get a refresh before the next cycle of stuff happens. But you just get that little bit of a break." And that's just how life is that if you can just hang on, if you can just don't quit until the sun comes up, because the Bible says, "This too shall pass." And my great grandmother always used to say that phrase, and there's such profound wisdom in that, that all you got to do is just outlast the sucky parts, just endure long enough to outlast the sucky parts. And then you get these breaks, and then you may get a season where everything's working great for you. But you just got to have that perspective to know that whatever you're going through, it's just a short period, it's just a season, and then it's going to end, and then you're going to have a season of good. And if you can maintain that perspective, a lot of times you can just get through. And sometimes you have to get through day by day. Sometimes you have to get through minute by minute. You just pray, God, just take away this fear and anxiety from me for the next hour, and get through that hour. And then pray that same thing again, get through the next hour. Before you know it, the day's done, and you've gotten through it successfully. And that's just part of getting through life.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too what you do with the sucky season because I know a lot of times we tend to just try to drown our sorrows out, one way or the other. And so depending upon, your perspective, I think you can, face that and use the sucky time to build yourself up and grow. And that way you're planting seeds in your life at this point to, germinate a brighter future, or you can wallow in the sorrow of what it is. And again, I'm not discrediting any, amount of grief and pain that people go through. A lot of times things just are sometimes unfathomable, and it's hard to deal with it. But I know there was a certain season, in my life, and I know my mom came to me and she said, "What you think is the worst day of your life will turn out to be the best." And it's so true. And like you said, you just have to get through it, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. And sometimes it's a lot harder than others, but the sun does rise every day, and it's another opportunity to do something that we're able to do. And so, like you said, I mean, it's man, we're there's just a lot of, I mean, just I was reading an article today. I didn't read too much, but I just saw a headline on an email, and basically, I guess the Justice Department or something passed a rule that said that you can't make home built guns anymore. And so the ATF went to this supplier of parts that you can get and you can, build guns yourself, and said they had to shut down. I just can't imagine, after building a business, after building a life, after building a customer base, for that to happen over some political, issue. I mean, when's the last time you've seen a mass shooter go in there with a gun that he spent weeks building? It just doesn't happen. I mean, there's never been a member of the NRA that's ever done any of that stuff, but they just go in there and do that. And again, I mean, that company, I don't know how many employees they had. I don't know what stock they have, but they're not allowed to sell their parts. I can't imagine what they're going through today. I mean,
Think
it's,
think about what happened during COVID, how they just shut down
mm-hmm.
businesses. It didn't have to make any sense at all. Remember that one lady that had a restaurant, and she was even setting up for outdoor dining. just to
Oh, in
comply with all
LA.
the COVID
Yeah.
restrictions, and they came yeah, and they shut her down. Then right outside of her restaurant, they had, like, a film set or something, and they were allowed to have all their catering and all everybody eat out there.
Yeah. And they'll look back at this. I mean, you're arresting gym owners in New Jersey for putting for allowing people to work out, which is one of the best things you can do for that. So I really hope history judges everything that happened in a factual and honest manner, because and again, I think it goes with this, that when you do face adversity, you have to analyze it. You have to sit down and say, okay, what did I do potentially to cause this? And sometimes it's nothing, but sometimes, I mean, we all make mistakes. We all, do things that we wish we could have had do-overs for. And thank God that most of us get a chance at do-overs in life. Some of us don't. Some of our mistakes are irreparable, and we can't, do anything about it. But for the good majority, we can. But some things are out of our control, like the situation where ATF's doing what they're doing. What we need to do is we need to light up our congressmen and senators and tell them how ridiculous this is. But I truly think that, coming together in a unified front and having that information and that the backing of everyone else certainly helps us. But I mean, man, there's still crazy things that go on, but how we approach that, you just never know. You just have to sometimes. I mean, and again, I mean, when you look at the guy that invented the post-it note, his original attempt was to create a glue that was so strong that it would be stronger than super glue. And he put it in the oven and came out and he completely failed. But he ended up turning that into what we call now the post-it note, which would have been way more successful than had that first attempt succeeded or prevailed. And so sometimes if you don't succeed, it actually turns out to be quite the blessing. So like I said, it comes back to perspective.
Yeah. So, and I meant to research this, but, um, true. Um, I'd seen this thing where the Chinese word for chaos was also the same word for opportunity. And I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but I was trying to research that while we were talking. But either way, we can always find opportunity in the midst of chaos. And just because everything's like falling down around you or industry's collapsing or something like that, that's usually a turning point in the world, in an economy, and something like that. There's so many people that have thrived out of chaos. We always just look at like the Great Depression and we look at all the different things where the entire world falls apart around you. And then you see people position themselves mentally and financially, and they next thing you know, they're richer than they ever have been, and they're better off than they ever have been. I mean, you look at where he dropped atomic bombs on Japan, and then you saw after that how much they thrived. After that, they found opportunity in the midst of chaos and trouble. Um, Another story that somebody told me earlier this week, or I'm sorry, in there last week, was kind of cool. It was about the grapes of Santorini, Greece. I think I was telling you a little bit about that. So Santorini is a place where it it must have been like the core of a volcano or something, and lava erupted and just basically covered up all of the soil, all the topsoil, everything like that. So it's pretty an inhospitable environment for things to grow. But somehow or another, they produce the sweetest grapes on the planet, just about. And how they do that is whenever the grape vines come up out of the ground, the I don't know, what do you call them, the vine dressers or whatever, curl these vines around to makes it look like a basket. I think it's called a calora. And so as they curl around, they curl around, curl around, it makes like this basket that shelters the branches and the grapes and that type of stuff and protects it from all the harsh winds, the sun. Even though it's like super hot there, it gets very little rain, but it's also very humid. So it's just really, really difficult place to thrive or to grow anything. So if you drive around and you're looking for the vineyards of Santorini, and you're thinking it's going to look like the Napa Valley, it doesn't. It looks like a whole bunch of little low baskets on the ground, woven baskets with maybe some greenery on it. So it's really kind of crazy looking. But if you think about that, here is something that is thriving in the midst of a terrible, terrible, tough environment. And we just need to take a life lesson from that that we can do the same thing. And I was thinking whenever I heard that, I was almost even thinking of Psalm 23, where it says, "You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies." Now think about that. You can be in the middle of war, you can be in the middle of chaos, you can be in the middle of persecution or whatever, and God prepares a table. He prepares a banquet, a buffet right there in the midst of all that so that you can peacefully eat and thrive right in the middle of being attacked. So it's just a great life lesson to realize that just because there's chaos and adversity doesn't mean that we can't survive and thrive in those environments.
When you say prepare a table in the midst of chaos or my enemies, I remember being on a cruise ship, and man, I hate boats. And I went on one cruise, and I'll never go on another cruise again for many different reasons. But I remember sitting in this. Our whole family went on a cruise, which is great because it was awesome to have our whole family together there. But it was steak and lobster night on the cruise, and we had this big old round table, and the waters were so rough that this isn't anything motivational, by the way. This is just story time. But the waters are so rough, it felt like you put a table on the back of a flatbed trailer and just started driving down the road. I mean, that's how it felt. And I could not deal with it. So I went and I had to go to the back deck and did the Titanic scene recreation there. But thank God for Dramamine because that was a bad day. But yeah, I mean, I always think about that as far as that prepare the table in the midst of all that other stuff because it was, man, that was a bad day. That was a really bad day. I struggle with motion sickness a lot, but I'm reading a book right now, or actually I was listening to a book on the way up here and talk about things that it would be great to do. There's no telling if this is going to be even possible because I'm definitely not a morning person. I'm not a sleep in past 8 o'clock person, but I can get up at 6:30 fairly easily. But there's a book called The 5 a.m. Club, and I thought that was an interesting read. So I ended up listening to it, and what it basically said is that the vast majority of successful people get up early and they do things in the stillness and the peace and the quiet before a lot of other people get up and are get into the chaotic life. And basically what he said is to do the 20-20-20 rule for the first hour is once you get up to go and start exercising kind of intense for 20 minutes to get a sweat going, for the next 20 minutes to kind of meditate and think of good things, whether that's prayer, whether that's just reflection. And then the third 20-minute session is to learn, whether it's reading like biographies of successful people or reading kind of motivational books or something like that. So that kind of moves you right up to 6 o'clock. And I'm gonna try it. I obviously didn't do it this morning. I was at the 7:30 club this morning, but I think that'd be pretty interesting to see. Because I mean, again, when I look at the people in my life that are pretty successful, they're early risers, and so that's just something I was going to pass by. I mean, it's not a command for anyone to do it. I would just be curious if anybody has seen success with that. I know when I've been overseas, let's just say in Romania, it's 7 hours ahead over there. And so you have 7 extra hours to get things done before America wakes up and the chaos and the phone calls and the emails and all that starts. And so having that peace and having that head start of solitude, I can see how it makes a huge difference. And so we'll see how that turns out. We'll see how that works out. What do you think about that? You're a pretty early riser.
Well, no, I'm more like that horse Rich Strike on just won the Kentucky Derby. I might be slow like getting out of the chute, but then I'm better at the end of the day. Like I'm flat out running towards the finish line. So I'm terrible in the mornings. I'm just the worst. Did you see the video of that
I
Rich
did.
Strike
I
horse?
did. I was talking to somebody.
Oh
I was
my
talking to
gosh.
somebody about that yesterday. Still the greatest Kentucky Derby I've ever seen. I can't remember what year it is, but it was the 50-1 long shot, Mind That Bird, that Calvin Burrell was riding. And it's very similar to this last race because once the chute let out and these horses ran around, neither of those horses in those two races were in the frame, like we're in the camera shot. They were so far back, especially the other one. And the older one, I think they made a movie 50-1 on that. But anyway, that was the same year the sheiks or the princes of the Middle East were flying their prize horses over on 747s and whatnot. Well, these cats drove their horse behind a F 250 with a trailer from Arizona, parked somewhere and stayed overnight, and the horse was in the parking lot. And so then they
Yep.
drive it in, and the dadgum horse wins the Kentucky Derby. It was still one of the greatest races ever because that horse was so far back and went right in the rail and ended up winning by like 4 horse lengths, and everyone was stunned and shocked. So that was kind of one of the first long shots. But this last one, like you said, that was wild too because that horse came way from the back and came and just blew on by these other horses. So I think I don't gamble, but if I did, I'd play the long shot from here on out.
I think so. I tell you, here's a little sideline. If you ever want to see the funniest commentating on a horse race, go on YouTube and type in hoof, HOOF, hearted, hoof hearted. They named this horse Hoof Hearted, and as the race goes on, this horse gets closer and closer to the lead, and he keeps going Hoof Hearted, Hoof Hearted. That is a
Have
funny
not
video.
seen that. Have not seen that. Well, what's our takeaway today? What's our takeaway?
um, well, be the coffee bean. Face adversity and believe that you can thrive in the midst of chaos and adversity.
What's our theme tomorrow? We're starting to do these like themes. I think it's easier if we're going to do a daily show.
Yep.
And I talked to Meme Joe about this. I said it'd be easier to come up with content if we have kind of themes of the day. So we're all just not, we'll be back to, yelling and screaming about politics and Joe Biden and all that other stuff because I know people like that nonsense. But anyway, what do you have for Tuesday?
Well, let me see what we were kind of being silly a little bit with this
Yeah.
the other day. Let me see what did we come up with because we wanted to be positive and motivational and all that type of stuff. But all right, I'm not seeing it. But we wanted to be motivational Monday for sure, just because Mondays need motivation. But we do like to trash the left a lot. So we were talking about trash the left Tuesday.
There it is. There
possibly.
it is.
Just it. I mean, yeah, trash the left Tuesday, and then what was
Wednesdays
Wednesday?
are video podcasts, and so we're gonna try to have guests on there and just kind of, depending upon what guests we have. And here's the train. That's extra credit right there. We have the train, but we were just gonna do our video podcast. Try to have some guests. I know we talked about a couple guests. We're just trying to schedule those and get those going. And Thursday, I can't even remember what we had.
Oh, I think we were talking about word of the week Wednesday, possibly. We just remember how you always say, what's your one word? And we always have one word for the year, but words matter, and what you say to yourself matters. So it could be word of the week Wednesday. It could be, I don't know, where the heck are we Wednesday? Who's with us Monday or Wednesday? Because we could have guests on that day. I don't know. And then usually probably go back to the news on Thursday. And so we should be drinking something that we will reveal what each one of us is drinking on Thursdays. We can call that Thirsty for News. Thirsty Thursday.
And if you guys didn't think
this is a work in progress,
this was just like a phone call, this is just like a phone call.
This is a work in progress, but I do like the theme concept. That is kind of fun because it also helps us, like I said, organize things, but it also will make us have to do stupid crap like drink certain things on Thursday.
Exactly. Well, we're not going to drink carrot juice because remember that time we made carrot or whatever juice that night we were on wheatgrass.
That was the night before our influence and persuasion seminar where we had a whole bunch of people showing up and we had nothing. We had nothing to present, and it was like midnight, and you decided you wanted to cook ribs and make wheatgrass and carrot juice or something to wake us up.
And I think we took a 1 hour. We slept for 1 hour before that seminar,
like
and that was
zombies.
That was not the way to do it. But hey, people paid for it, and
that was so painful.
They evidently liked it.
Yeah, they did. And there was a lot of people showed up, and it was supposed to be like a half-day seminar. And we showed up, and you remember, I pulled you out into the hallway right as the thing was about to start, and literally my mind went blank. I mean, it went slap blank. And I said, I was panicking. I said, Rusty, I said, we're, I've got nothing. I've got nothing. And we walked in there and we put a slide up on the projector and started talking. And we went for like, I don't know, like 4 hours
That's pretty
straight
much
after
how
that.
all these podcasts start.
Yeah,
I got
pretty much.
nothing. Well, let's just hit record and go. So, hey,
Right,
they turn out
exactly.
pretty good. So, well, we're a little bit over. I know Thursday we have daily 30, and I think that was daily 30 plus 15. So, I mean, it was good, but we're kind of at our 30-minute mark here. So, we'll let you wrap this one up, and we will be back tomorrow. But I'll let you wrap it up because you did a good job opening.
All right. Well, everybody, it's great to be here again. Like I said, here with Rusty Putt Park. We're looking forward to doing this on a semi daily basis. Maybe not on Fridays, Saturdays, or Sundays, but all the rest of the days we'd like to come and have a chat with you. We'd love for you guys to comment and check us out on gab.com and Gab Social and Spotify and what else is it? Apple
Apple Podcast. That's
Podcasts
our main one, I
and
think.
Free Think. Yeah.
With that, Apple Podcast is the main one that people listen to podcasts on.
And you can catch all of our episodes on freethinkerspodcast.com. So with that, have a great day. And I'm Meme Joe Green here with Rusty Putt Park, and we will see you guys tomorrow.